Hello, everyone. This is the Berean Challenge Persecution Prayer List for the week of February 27th through March 5th, 2022. Our first story comes from Nigeria. It was posted on February 27th by Morning Star News. Suspected Islamic State West Africa Province, or ISWAP terrorists, on Friday, February 25th, killed 3 Christians in an attack on northeast Nigeria's Chibok area, residents say. Besides the Christians killed in the attack on Kautakari village, Borno State, at about 5 p.m., a Church of the Brethren in Nigeria worship building was also destroyed, said area resident John Usman. The predominantly Christian Kautakari community was also attacked in mid-January when 24 Christian women and children were captured and taken into captivity, with 20 of them are still held captive, sources said. The 4 others managed to escape in late January. Chibok leaders reported that their communities have been attacked more than 72 times since the 2014 kidnapping of the 276 public high school girls in predominantly Christian Chibok. At least 407 Christians have been killed in 72 attacks since 2012 in the area by Boko Haram or ISWAP rebels who seek to impose Sharia throughout Nigeria. Chibok has been, for all intents and purposes, abandoned to its own devices by all layers of government in Nigeria. Also from Nigeria, posted on March 3rd by Open Doors USA. In Nigeria, a Christian is killed for their faith every 2 hours. That's nearly 13 Christians a day and 372 Christians a month. They're sobering statistics. Each number is a man, woman, father, mother, son, or daughter who die violently just because they follow Jesus. We can document that 4,650 Nigerian Christians were killed during the previous reporting period for the 2022 World Watch List, says Open Doors CEO David Curry. Those are just those we know about and can report. They were tracked, targeted, raped, and killed because they were Christians. Research for the 2022 World Watch List reveals that in 2021, more Christians were murdered for their faith in Nigeria than in any other country. Last year, Nigeria accounted for nearly 80% of Christian deaths worldwide, with more than 4,650 believers killed. The death toll once again makes Nigeria the world's most violent place for Christians for the second consecutive year. Our next story comes from Algeria. It was posted on February 28th by International Christian Concern. Last month, Algerian authorities arrested another Christian man after preaching outside of a church and distributing Bibles. The man, Mohamed Darab, remains in detention for anti-conversion charges brought against him. The arrest occurred in Tizi Ouzou, a province in Algeria that has already seen several church closures, including a new threatened closure from the provincial governor. Due to the closures, Brother Darab, an elder at the closed Tafat Church in Tizi Ouzou, preached outside of his church on January 27 and gave one listener a Bible, resulting in his arrest the next day. Authorities searched the elder's house afterwards and confiscated his collection of Bibles. During the trial, an Algerian judge sentenced Brother Darab to 18 months in prison. Brother Darab is currently detained in prison awaiting his next trial date to appeal the judgment next month. Our next story comes from India. It was posted on February 28th by Mission Network News. Hindu nationalists increasingly target Christian women and girls in India. Without support and guidance, many new Christian women are now going back to their original religion. In partnership with Voice of the Martyrs Canada, Kiara, which is not her real name, leads a group helping these persecuted believers. Women are being persecuted for their faith in Jesus. There is a very structured way of cornering them and persecuting them, Kiara says. Radicals recently pressured one woman to deny the Lord, and she refused. She did not denounce her faith, and what was the next step? Her daughter was sold and trafficked. This was the punishment given to the Christian woman because of her faith, Kiara says. There is the fear that if you accept Christianity, we are going to rape your daughters. We are going to sell them because you are accepting something that is not Indian. This is a foreign religion. This is a religion of the devil. Sometimes the government denies food or relief aid when women admit to following Christ. The aid is given to her only if she denies her faith. If she doesn't take the relief, there'll be no food for her or for her family, Chiara says. Also, gangs of women target other believers. These gangs try to convince Christians to leave their faith and return to Hinduism. It's a Hindi term, Hari Satsan Mandu. It is a group of women going into villages and identifying Christians and being like a vigilante group within the community, Chiara says. Chiara's organization gives persecuted believers a lifeline, surrounding them with practical help and gospel hope. We've been able to energize and mobilize more women to come forward and stand with them to create a network, Chiara says. These are the little steps that we are taking to help persecuted women. One of the most important steps is to talk to these women about their rights. They have equal rights being the citizens of India. Pray persecuted women and girls will stand firmly rooted in their faith. Our next story comes from Iran, and it was posted on February 28th by Article 18. 9 Christian converts who spent a combined nearly 20 years in prison for acting against national security and promoting Zionist Christianity have been acquitted by a Tehran appeal court. The ruling by Branch 34 of the Tehran Court of Appeal, issued and communicated to the 9 Christians today, comes after a Supreme Court judge ordered a review of their convictions in November. The Christians were subsequently released pending the outcome of the review, though one of them is already back in prison serving a separate sentence related to his Christian faith and activities, and 2 others have been handed new charges. In their ruling, the appeal court judges Sayed Ali Asghar Kamali and Akbar Johari found there was insufficient evidence the Christians had acted against national security, referencing their lawyer's explanation that they had only worshipped in the house church in accordance with the teachings of Christianity, and that Christians are taught to live in obedience, submission, and support of the authorities. The judges also noted the legal principle of interpreting any doubt in favor of the accused, as well as quoting an Islamic saying that teaches that it is better to make mistakes in pardoning and forgiveness than in punishment. Also from Iran, posted on March 1st by Article 18, only one day after 9 Christian converts were acquitted of acting against national security by worshiping in house churches, another Christian convert serving a 10-year sentence on very similar grounds has been denied his own retrial. Nasser Navard Gol Tape, who is 60 years old, has served over 4 years of his 10-year prison sentence for acting against national security with the intention to overthrow the regime due to alleged links to churches and Christian organizations abroad. Ever since his imprisonment in January 2018, Nasser has been appealing to a higher court for a retrial, writing several open letters to query the charges against him, including asking how membership of a house church could be viewed as an action against national security. Is the fellowship of a few Christian brothers and sisters in someone's home singing worship songs, reading the Bible, and worshiping God acting against national security, he asked in one letter? Finally, after 3 rejections of his applications for a retrial, as well as denials of either parole or even furlough, Branch 9 of the Supreme Court agreed to consider his case in January 2022. But now, in a short verdict that gives little explanation, dated on February 19, 2022, but only communicated to Nasser's family this morning after repeated requests, his appeal for a retrial has been summarily dismissed. So while yesterday 9 Christian converts were celebrating their acquittal, albeit one of them from prison and 2 more while facing new charges, today another convert is bemoaning his own continued incarceration. Our next story comes from the Democratic Republic of Congo. It was posted on February 28th by International Christian Concern. 4 travelers were killed Thursday evening while driving in Karuruma, eastern DRC, after their vehicle was barricaded by the terrorist Allied Democratic Forces. Among the 4 civilians killed was Sylvia Kombi, a staff member of the Anglican Church of Congo, hailed for her service in providing trauma counseling to the terror-stricken region. She was coming from our local diocese in Kasindi, where she had gone to give counseling to Christian refugees living in Libhiriha. One local source, Canon Muhasa. We received reports that the rebels had stopped their vehicle in Karuruma, which is a village in Virunga Park, and they killed 4 of the travelers, while 2 escaped with serious wounds. They also set the vehicles on fire. South Rwenzori Diocese of Uganda eulogized Kombi as a dedicated psychologist who offered immense trauma counseling to the persecuted believers in the diocese. The head of the missions arm of the diocese said she would spend days with the Muslim background believers here to pray with them and guide them on how to face persecution and become bold servants of the Lord. She was a humble and loving sister who put the gospel needs of the church first, and she never hesitated whenever we needed her to come all the way from DR Congo to train our evangelists. Our next story comes from China. It was posted on March 1st by China Aid. 3 out of the 5 Christians from a house church in Taiyuan, previously sentenced to more than 6 months of imprisonment for attending a Christian conference in Malaysia, have been released. Wang Shiquang and Zhang Yaowen, members of the Zushen Reformed Church, both sentenced to 7 months, were set free on February 27th. Their families went to pick them up and took photos outside of the detention center. With the shortest sentence of 6 months, Song Shushan was released on January 27th. Zhang Ligong and Wang Runyun will finish their 8-month sentence on March 27th. After Song's release, he told his family that not only did he and the 4 other Christians experience God in jail, but they also shared the good news with other inmates. God is never wrong. He said there are many poor souls inside who need the gospel. He said that other brothers still detained are all doing well. The 5, along with their preacher, An Yankui, and another member, Zhang Chenggao, attended the KL 2020 Gospel and Culture Conference in Malaysia in January 2020. Though they departed and returned to China through customs with their passports, the Chinese government still viewed their trip as illegal and hit them with fabricated charges on December 28, 2021. An Yankui and Zhang Chenggao were detained on November 21st last year for illegal border crossing as well. Although they have not been sentenced, they are currently detained at the Jiaoyi City Detention Center. Our next story is also from China, posted on March the 4th by Bitter Winter. Meet an unbreakable, irrepressible Christian woman. Zhu Jingjia. She has been detained on February 20th because she went to the Xinghuamen, the entrance gate of the Zongnanhai region in Beijing, where the top leaders of the Chinese Communist Party live, preparing to welcome President Xi Jinping back from the Winter Olympics and tell him he should accept God and publicly repent. She was detained for a crime frequently ascribed to protesters and dissenters, which is picking quarrels and provoking trouble. Xi Jinping was inaugurated as president of China on 14th of March 2013. Zhou Jingjia, a Christian from Dalian who had been unjustly evicted from her home, took seriously Xi's statement that he would fight corruption and wrote to him repeatedly. Having not received an answer, Zhou concluded that no solution to China's problem would be possible unless Xi Jinping and his wife Peng Liyuan would receive God in their hearts. On Christmas Day of 2014, she went to the Zongnanhai and started holding a sign reading, "God who loves the world is calling Xi Jinping and Peng Liyuan." She lasted for a few minutes, after which she was detained and brought to a psychiatric hospital for examination. Doctors said she had no mental health problems, but she was kept under surveillance. In fact, she went again to the Zongnanhai, was detained again, and kept in jail for 10 days. On March 5, 2016, she showed up again in front of one of the Zongnanhai entering gates with a sign addressing Xi Jinping and Pen Liyuan and proclaiming that freedom, equality, justice, and integrity come from God. Let the country be held high. Sin is a humiliation of the people. The kingdom of heaven is near. You should repent. She was detained again. Overall, Zhou has tried to reach Xi Jinping and put signs in his sight, calling him to convert and repent more than a dozen times. Now she has been detained again. As Zhu is becoming a well-known case among house church Christians, and her efforts were mentioned in social media, although the postings were promptly canceled, there is a risk that authorities would react more harshly this time by having the Dalian activist sentenced to a long prison term. Our next story comes from the United States of America. It was posted on March 3rd by FaithWire. 2 female cadets at the United States Military Academy at West Point, New York, were recently baptized in a memorable way, choosing to be dunked in the frigid waters of the Hudson River. According to the North American Mission Board, Brooke Parker and Jiaxing Ma were baptized by Baptist Campus Ministry Director Joshua Austin on February 12. The pair were asked if they would like to use the baptistry located in the basement of a chapel on campus or wait until the weather warmed up for an outside ceremony. The basement almost felt like hiding my faith, as few people would be able to attend and celebrate with me the good things God has done, explained Parker. And nobody would be able to just happen upon this event as they would if I were to be baptized outside. This would eliminate a big opportunity to share this experience and Christ with others who may not have previously considered attending. I didn't want to wait any longer to show others what God has done for me and what God can do, which is why I chose to get baptized in the icy waters, Ma said. I couldn't wait any longer to show others all his greatness, but also to proclaim that to God that I am his, and I welcome him into my heart, and I want to follow him. Over 60 witnesses watched as Ma and Parker publicly declared their faith in Jesus Christ. Our last story comes from Bangladesh. It was posted also on March 4th by Mission Network News. Christians make up just 0.3% of the population of Bangladesh, and it's difficult for that number to grow. Peter Mazumdar is the National Director of Asian Access in Bangladesh. He says sharing the gospel is constitutionally protected in Bangladesh, but it still often brings persecution, especially from Muslim groups. Over the last 3 years, 11,300 Christians have been displaced from their houses. Fundamentalist groups will even burn the houses. Police have watched many of these attacks but did nothing to stop them. This is a common phenomenon, Mazumdar says. When people come to the Lord out of a Muslim majority background, they are not welcomed, and they are just kicked out from their families. Asian Access also works among the Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh. Over 1 million people live in the Cox's Bazar refugee camp. Mazumdar says only 62 have been identified as Christians. They like to worship in their camp, but it is really tough. Some people burned their camp houses. After people begin following Jesus, the work is not finished. Asian Access works to provide nurturing and discipleship after the baptism. Mazumdar says we train new believers from Hindu and Buddhist backgrounds, including their children. We do Sunday school. We teach them from the Bible. They memorize the stories and perform dramas. Pray many unreached people in Bangladesh would hear the good news of Jesus and his love for all people. Ask God, especially, to protect Christians who come out of Muslim families. This is the end of this week's persecution prayer list. I invite you to look at the PDF that's linked below In doing so, you can use the hyperlink to read the 2022 World Watch List from Open Doors about the 50 worst countries to be a Christian in. I also invite you to join in on the 40-day pledge to pray for the persecuted church, and to also use the hyperlink to write to persecuted Christians.